This episode of What Where Why Enemies of Bloodborne was suggested by Paul, Yorek, and KMIA. Get ready for a scream!
Hi Richie!
Hi, Sen.
Hi everyone! Today we're on a time crunch and we're going to talk about Parasite, Worm, Larva, episode 22, What, Where, Why. What are they called? Larva Parasite. Larva Parasite. Parasite Larva. Parasite Larva. Okay, good? Everybody understand what's going on?
Yes, Sen.
So Richie, what are the parasite larvae?
Well, Sen, it's interesting that you ask. Sin's laughing nervously because the time crunch is real.
It is.
Okay, so the parasite larva, there's three, kinds of them. There's the parasite larvae that wiggle around on their own. There's the parasite larvae that are in the silver beasts, and there's the parasite larva that's really huge that's in the bloodletting beast. If you want to get, I guess they technically qualify the bloodletting beast's projectile attack is a bunch of little winged parasite larvae that fly out of the wound in its back. So parasite larvae are, apart from the bloodletting beast ones, which is either massive or tiny, they are big sort of maggoty worm things. They're about like the size of a human arm in Bloodborne scale. And they wriggle around on the floor, and when they see you, they leap into the air and try to bite you.
Mm-hmm.
And they I think the thing to note about them is that they're very, very close to the vermin that they mention in the DLC, and I think they probably are just like a pre-DLC take on what vermin were. But we'll talk about that under where and why.
Okay. So Richie.
Yes.
Where are the parasites?
Okay, so the first place you're likely to encounter them is the cave under Yosefka's clinic, where there's a bunch of them wriggling around in the... we don't really know what it is, but whatever it is poisonous.
Right,
So they're wriggling around in that. Then there's a bunch in Canehurst that are wriggling around sort of after the... in the aftermath of that battle, because presumably there was a ton of blood and shit and people died. They're all around a corpse and a blood gem. The ones in the clinic, they're also around there's blood gems and stuff down there. And then you'll run into them in the Nightmare of Mensis, because they are inside the Silver Beasts. They're only inside the Mensis Silver Beast. They're not inside the ones in the Nightmare Frontier. And what will happen is they pop out during an attack. The Silver Beast will... it'll attack by the vermin, just the maggots will just pop out of their mouth. It's like a ranged attack. Also, if you kill the silver beasts without using a fire weapon, the parasites pop out after they're dead and you have to deal with them. And then if you go into the chalice dungeons, there is a gigantic one inside the bloodletting beast. And as we mentioned before, the bloodletting beast also has a bunch of little tiny baby ones that live in the wound in its back, they've sort of parasitized it. Hence the name parasite larva.
Thank you. And let me ask you, why are the parasites?
Certainly. Okay, so prior to the DLC, you could still kind of make sense of this, but the DLC made it a bit more comprehensible. The idea is that the parasites grow in... It's not clear if they grow in there or they just like living there, but inside blood that's gone bad. So there's a ton under Yosefka's clinic because she's doing all those experiments. And if you go down there, the water in there is poisonous because it has all these bodies dumped in it. It's all gone gross. Obviously, ton of parasites there. She's also dumping... Yeah. Interestingly, the same goo that's under there is in the research hall that the church were experimenting with. So I don't know what it is, but whatever. It's like the runoff from bodies or something. But whatever it is, there's a ton of it. And the parasites are just wriggling around inside of it. They're also obviously at Canehurst because there's a lot of blood there. There's a lot of dead vile bloods. And, it's attracted to blood leakers. It's also attracted to parasites. There is also, the one in the bloodletting beast makes a lot... Bloodletting Beast obviously makes a lot of sense because the Bloodletting Beast is like one of the most gross things. It's just like its body is just host to parasites. It's been, we'll just say it's Lawrence, and he's been experimenting on himself, and he's just lost control. He's basically become a nest. Are you familiar with animals getting fly blown?
What is that?
It's really disgusting. It's basically when flies start laying eggs in animals that are still alive, and they become
Yeah, I heard about it.
The bloodletting beast is that. And the ones in the silver beasts are there because, like, this is where we bring in the DLC. The DLC makes it clear that, okay, if you are messing around with old blood and you get cursed and you start giving into this horrible, like, bloodlust and everything, you get these vermin in you that they look like centipedes. Parasite larvae don't look like centipedes, but it looks like it's the same principle, where just after a while you start getting these things growing in you. And it makes sense that they're in the silver beasts, because the silver beasts are like, they're just people who succumbed, became these beast things, and ergo there are parasites living in them. So, interesting thing about this parasites in the silver beasts is that even when they're not using them to attack you, you can look in their mouths if you get close enough. And they're actually inside the throat. Like, they're not just like packed in there because they have to do the attack. They're animated to like sit inside the throat. They're like choking them.
And that's kind of like a real thing, right? When a parasite attaches itself to a fish's tongue.
Yeah. There's a parasite isopod.
Yeah.
An isopod is basically just like a little beetle thing. If you've seen like a pill bug, it's just one of those, but really big. They live inside the mouths of fish, and what they do is they sit in the fish's mouth, and as the fish eats, the parasite eats the leftover like crumbs and things from the fish. What the fish was eating is able to get a free meal because it's literally in the fish's mouth, so it's getting everything the fish gets. So I think putting this all together, and also putting together, like, when certain beasts attack you, they will bite you, and they will, like a vampire, they will bite into your neck and start, like, sucking blood out. The beast-possessed soul is a really good example, because that grabs you, it bites you, starts sucking the blood out, and then it actually gets a buff. Like, it gets this red aura around it, like, it's getting some power from the blood. If you just assume that blood drunkenness is caused by these parasite things inside of you, then it's like, okay, the parasites probably just feed off blood. So if you're blood drunk and you're full of parasites, then they live inside your throat, which is also where the one in the bloodletting beast is. And then as you consume all this blood through your mouth by like chomping on people and eating them and ripping them apart with your teeth, the parasites are getting some of that blood. So it all forms like a nice little sort of ecological niche thing. It all fits together very nicely.
It does.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Richie.
Thank you. That was 7 minutes, and it was probably more informative than any other one we've done.
Damn shade.
That was What, Where, Why, Enemies of Bloodborne, episode 22, Parasite Larva. So if people are interested in Parasite Larva, where can they find them on social media?
Do you want me to tell you? You want me to name names? You want to get me killed?
Good night, everyone.
Good night.